And welcome everyone. Today's amud is Makos Zayin amud Aleph. We're 3 lines at the bottom of your Tes Zayin amud base. We're quick introduction. We're discussing what's the din with Maisa Ani. Someone did not take Maisa Ani. Is there a shiur Makos if he eats it? Is it called tevel without taking Maisa Ani? So Maisa Ani is every 3rd and 6th year, and the other years of the Shemitah cycle, 2, 3, 5, and 2, 3, 4, and 5. No, 1, 2, 4, and 5. You take Maisa Sheni, which he has to Bailim is mafresh. He has to eat it in Yerushalayim, or he's paid and eats out of Yerushalayim. This guy, but in the 3rd and 6th year, you have to take Maisa Ani, and you have to give it to Aniyim. Any Ani can eat it, doesn't have to be in Yerushalayim. So what happens if he didn't take Maisa Ani? Does he get Makos if he eats the rest of the crop? Says the Gemara, Omar of Yosef Ketanoi. This is a machlekes Tanaim that it says, you do not have to go ahead and be koresh shem, which means designate, basically say this is Maisa Ani, this part, the top 10%, or the bottom, or the part on the left, part on the right. You don't have to do that to Maisa Ani shel demai. Demai is an amaret's crop. You don't know if he took Maisa Ani from it or not. So you do not have to be koresh hashem, says Rabbi Lezer. Koresh hashem, you do have to go ahead and designate the Maisa Ani. But you don't have to go ahead and actually take out the Maisa Ani and give it to the Ani. Or just be mafresh it. You don't have to be mafresh it and maybe eat it, not eat it. Rashi says, Ein tzarich lahafresh, top line in Rashi, Decheven shakar of shame, yotzach kri meteres tevel. Now you will koresh shame. Now that you said this is Maisa Ani, it's not tevel anymore. Now the sham maisus tzarich lahafresh hakach. Of course, the other maisus you have to be mafresh, but this one you don't have to be mafresh, right? And Rashi says, Maisa Sheni. That if it would be Maisa Sheni, if it's a year where you take Maisa Sheni, of course you have to take it to Yerushalayim. So that's a machlekes over here. So you see that l'chayra, it's a machlekes if you have to be carried the shame on a sofek Maisa Ani or not. So the Gemaras are going to explain. My lav b'al isn't this the machlekes? The masav of vadai tovlei. One mandama holds, if it definitely wasn't taken Maisa Ani, that's called tevel. That's tevel. In the case where there's definitely no Maisa Ani taken, it's tevel. Or masavar vadai einay tovlei. If we know for a fact that the tevel was the Maisa Ani wasn't taken, that's not called tevel. So the machlekes here between Rebbe Lezer and Chachamim is, if we know b'vadai that the Maisa Ani wasn't taken, is that considered tevel or not? And therefore, with the demai, do you have to go ahead and take it or not? If even when it's vadai, you don't have to take it, therefore, when you have a suffix, for sure you don't have to take it. Amalei Abaye says to him, Ihachi, if that's the machlekes between Rebbe Lezer and Chachamim, why are you bothering arguing about the suffix? Just talk about the vadai. Talk about a case where we know the guy didn't take Maisa Ani. Is he allowed to eat it before he's carrying shame? That should be the machlekes. Why are you telling me? Why are you bringing out this machlekes between Rebbe Lezer and Chachamim? Dafka in the case of a suffix tevel, a suffix Maisa Ani. Talk about vadai Maisa Ani. Hello. Alma vadai tovlei. Everyone agrees that when it's vadai, it's tevel. If you know for sure he didn't take Maisa Ani, it's for sure tevel. This is the machlekes here. Masava lo nech shedu amei aretz al Maisa Ani shel demai. One holds that, guess what? Amaratzim We're not chayshid them they didn't take Maisa Ani, Shel Demai. Why? Why shouldn't we be chayshid Amar if they didn't take Maisa Ani? Came with the Mamainu Afushim Marfish. Since it's mominous, there's no Kedusha in the Maisa Ani. It's just mominous. That belongs now to Aniyim. Give the Mamainu Afushim Marfish. He'll be Marfish the Maisa Ani. And Rashi says, and he'll eat it himself. He doesn't mind stealing from the Aniyim. That's how Rashi understands it. Afushim Marfish who? And he'll just eat it himself. V'Rabbanan Savri, there's no skin off his back. It doesn't cost him anything. He'll be mafish in Maisani and he'll eat it. The other man dal mahal. So we're not chayshish the Amaretz for not taking Maisani. The other man dal says, Rabbanan Savri came with the trichale milsa. Since it's a pain in the neck to go ahead and be mafresh, he has to say a few words. It's a headache for him. Like mafresh, he doesn't bother doing it. Given the trichale. It's another thing he's got to put on his head. Nothing to worry about. He can't be bothered to do it, so he won't take the Maisa Ani. You see the little aleph there. It's the Hagos Gra. The Gra brings a different gears to he. Tzachleimar given the Sanya. I guess the Gra holds it's not a tircha. Just say the words Harizeh Maisa Ani. That takes about a split second. How can you call that a tircha? Maybe that's why the Gra changes the gears. Gra says given the Sanya Milsa. He hates doing this. So it's a machlekes. What does he hate? The Achronim explain what the gears of the Gra means. Doesn't mean that he just hates to do mitzvahs. It's another mitzvah. He hates doing mitzvahs. He won't take Maisa Ani, even though it's free. It doesn't take any. It's not a headache. He doesn't want to be meshubah to Torah mitzvahs. Even though we're talking about an Amar, it doesn't mean he's a believer. But he's not a Talmid Chacham. He doesn't really understand what's going on. So he just doesn't like doing mitzvahs. He doesn't want to get involved. The other shita is that he hates doing it because now he's consciously stealing from Aniyim. Once you mafresh Maisa Ani, and now you go ahead and you eat it, mafresh Maisa, you say this belongs to Aniyim, and then he eats it. So he doesn't want to be a dime, go ahead every day and steal from Aniyim. He feels like a piece of garbage. He'd rather just not be mafresh. Okay. Machloikus. If it's a tircha or if it just doesn't like to do it. So it turns out that's the machlekes Rebbe Eliezer and Chachamim. The machlekes is the first Havamina. The Havamina was the machlekes Rebbe Eliezer and Chachamim is the tevel. Does Maisa Ani create tevel? A lack of Maisa Ani create tevel more accurately, or is the machlekes whether the maskana of the Gemara is the machlekes is whether Na'amaretz will take Maisa Ani or not, whether we chayshit him. Says the Gemara, Kama yoichel min ha-tevel. How much tevel does a guy have to eat in order to get Makos? Amar of Bibi, Amar of Shimon ben Lakish, machlekes bechito. The machlekes is with wheat, a wheat kernel. Aber bekemach divrei hakol kazayis. But with kemach, with flour, everyone agrees the shiur is a kazayis. Now, as we saw, there was a machlekes in the Mishnah between Chachamim and Rabbi Akiva, what the shiur is. So he's saying the machlekes is only by a wheat kernel, not by kemach. Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Rabbi Yirmiyah says, "K'machlekes bezu, kach machlekes bezu." That the same machlekes applies to a whole kamach and to a wheat kernel. It's the same thing. Rashi says, "K'machlekes bechita, kach machlekes bezu." Rashi says, "Kolshu." The kasavar of Shimon, b'chol esur kolshu lemakos. So according to this shita, even a grain of kamach, you get Makos for. You don't need the whole kazayis. This is a shita that they both agree you need even just a kol shehu. So what do you need a kazayis? So if kazayis, Rashi says, in carbon. You only ever need a kazayis in order to get mal, in order to be chayv a carbon. Al shkogas kares. So that's how Rashi understands. Do you not agree to me? So this is what Rav Shimon wanted to prove. Do you not agree to me, boy, a guy eats a tiny bug, a tiny ant, it's much less than a kazayas, it's a tenth of a kazayas, it's a hundredth of a kazayas. Do you not agree to me that guy eats in the mali is chayiv? Malkus? Amalai, Mepleishu Kibriyasa. They answer back to him. You know why he's chayiv Malkus on an ant? Because it's Kibriyasa. Literally means it's how it was created. It's a bria, it's a shalem. You have a full ant. Amalahan, he said back to them, Afchita achas Kibriyasa. What do you mean? A kernel of wheat is also Kibriyasa. It's the same thing. So, Afchita achas Kibriyasa. Chita in kemachlai. Chita is a briyasa, kemach isn't briyasa. So ledivreihem ka'amaluhu. He said ledivreihem ka'amaluhu. Ledidi, I hold. I'm saying my shita even only based on what you're saying. I'm going to say this. Even you should agree to me. Ledidi afilu kemach nami. I believe even Kamach is Makoshu. You should agree to me, the Chita Achas Kibriyasa. I hold even a Mashu is Chayiv, right? But you should agree to me that Chita has to be Chita's Kibriyasa, and you should agree that Chita should be Chayiv Malkus even on 1 grain of kernel, because you hold it's totally in Kibriyasa, whether it's a Beria. Chita is Kiberia. So the Rabbanan answers, Rabbanan, Brias Neshama Chashuva, Chita Loi Chashuva. An ant has a Neshama, and that's why it's Chashuv. That's why it's important. But a grain of kernel doesn't have a Neshama, so it's not Chashuv. That's why you're not Chayiv. Tani Kavasi de Rabbi Yirmiyah. We have a brisa that sounds like Rabbi Yirmiyah. Says Reb Shimon Makos Makos Kazayas Ela le'inyan carbon. Reb Shimon says anything, even having a grain of anything that's asa, you get malchus for. So what does it say kazayas for? Kazayas Ela le'inyan carbon. You only ever need a shiur kazayas for something that you chayiv koris for. If you eat it, like you eat chometz on Pesach, but if you have a kazayas b'sheigeg, you're going to have to bring a carbon. Says. Okay, says Taisus. Take a look at the top Taisus. Rabbanan Kibriyasa. Rabbanan Brias Neshama Chashuva Chita Loi Chashuva. Tema. Taisus a kasha. Gida Noshe. Bepeg Gida Noshe. It says Shani Gid the Beri Yehuva Loi Botol. It's talking about the things that are bottled b'raiv, and the Gemara says that Gida Noshe, which you're not allowed to eat. We're not allowed to eat the Gida Noshe. Gidanasha is a beria and it's not bottle. Okay. Vavagav, the leis be neshama. Does the gid have a neshama? So ask Taisus, the gidanasha can walk around. The gidanasha is like the hind sinew or whatever, some vein or something in the back of the cow, right? So does it have a neshama? It can't walk around. So this is what it means. So there's a whole different pshat of what Beria means. Shani gid the beriyu, v'cheven the asya brias neshama shape have beria. Anything that came from a living animal, that's called a beria. Since it was once alive, it's called a beria. So an ant, since it's alive, it's called a beria. It doesn't have to be shalem. It doesn't mean the entire beria, the entire creature. But since it came from a living animal, the Gidanasha came from a living animal, it's not bottle. V'loi nira. The hanavela the kasim beri neshama v'af piche lo yave beria. This says, what do you mean? An avela, you have a little piece of meat. That came from a living animal, and that's not called a beria. You have to have a kazayas. If you only eat a tiny bit of a piece of chazer, it came from a living animal. But that's not called a beria. So why is the Gidanasha a beria and a little piece of chaz is not a beria? What's the difference? Beria, not beria. Why? Elal korchach. So you have to say, Hatam tali dechol sha'eved b'menu shmai kishenechdach have beria. It depends on what we call it. If when you cut it, the name changes, that's called a beria. If the name stays the same, it's not a beria. Meaning, you have an ant, you cut it off in half, now you have half an ant. You have an ant, right? You had a gidanosha, before it was a gidanosha, now you cut it. It's called part of a gidanosha, right? Let's see Taisis inside. Taisis says, V'nicha. Nevela is a kasha, she'ena ived shma, shelfam af kshenechlim kvar bois nevela. You have a piece of meat. It's called a piece of meat. It's called a nevela. You cut it in half. It's still called a piece of meat. It's still called a nevela. A nevela doesn't mean the entire carcass of the whole cow is called a nevela. Even a piece of meat. This is bossa nevela. Holding a piece of nevela. You cut it in half. It's still bossa nevela. You didn't change the name. There's no chashivas to this nevela. It doesn't change its name. That's not, it's not called a nevela. If you had a gid anosha, this is the gid. And now you cut it in half. It's not the gid, it's part of the gid. It's like you have part of the leg. It's not the leg now, it's part of a leg. It's part of an ant. The nevela, it's still the same thing. The nevela didn't change. So that's how Taisus understands this whole Indian of Beria. Says the Mishnah. So the first fruit the guy grows on his trees, he has to bring it to the base of Mikdash. Bikurim, he has to read the whole thing. Arami Avidavi. And this is my 3 long psukim we say. So he eats the bikurim before he reads the psukim. You have to wait till you read the psukim before you eat it. Makos. He eats Kodesh Kedoshim Chutz Kalayim out of the Kalayim of the Mikdash, of the Mishkan, out of the outer walls of the Mishkan. You have to eat it inside. Kochim Kalim or Ma'aseh Sheni Chutz L'Chayma in the base of Mikdash. You would eat Ma'aseh Sheni in the base of Mikdash. Or Kochim Kalim you have to eat in the base of Mikdash. If you eat it outside the base of Mikdash, Malkus Hashem V'Etzeh B'Pesach. That pasuk. For some reason, there's an issa to break a bone of the Korban Pesach. You have to eat it without breaking the bones. It has to be a Pesach Atar. If the Korban Pesach is Tomei, there's no issa. But if the Korban Pesach is Tar, you're not allowed to break the bone. You get 40 lashes for all of these. Aval Hamaiser Betar. If you left over tahor meat, v'shover b'tomei, or you broke the bones of a korban pesach that was tomei, einai like arbaim, he does not get the 40. Anoitel eimal abanim, he doesn't do shulach haken, he takes the eggs without showing away the mother bird. Rabbi Yehuda like vein mishalem, he gets malchus, vein mishalech, he gets malchus and you lost the mitzvah, vein mishalech. Chacham says, Mishaleach ve'eino loike. Do shiluach now, and don't get malchus. Raklal says, Rabbi Yehuda, kol mitzvahs loisasei sheish ba kumase, any mitzvah loisasei that has a kumase, en chayovim aleah. There's no chiyov. Anytime there's a lav and nitikla essay, basically, you don't need to. There's no malchus. Says the Gemara. This Mishnah, this Stam Mishnah that we had about Bikurim, this is Rabbi Kiva. They explain that what he means is, it could be what he means is every Stam Mishnah, anytime there's a Mishnah Stam, it's Rabbi Kiva. Meaning it could be Rabbi Meir, it could be Rabbi Shimon, it could be Rabbi Kiva, but it's all gone according to the Shita of Rabbi Kiva. He was the Rebbe of all of them. So any Stam, anything Brisa, Sifri, Sifra, if it's Stam, it's going according to Rabbi Kiva. That's one way to understand it. Aval, Chacham Maimrim, Bikurim, Hanocha Makev, as Chacham says, with Bikurim, the Hanocha, putting it in front of the Mizbech, that's what's Ma'akev. V'nichai lifnei Hashem. The pasuk says, V'nichai. What does it say? V'nichai lifnei, or v'nachtoi lefonai. There's a couple of psukim. You have to put the bikurim in front. So once you put it in front, you chayv malchus. Kriya ein ma'akeves bahem. But reading the psukim, that's not ma'akev. What's ma'akev by Bikurim? Putting in front of the mizbeach, v'nachtoi. When you put it in front of the mizbeach, chayv malchus if you eat it. But you're not chayv if you don't read the psukim. The psukim isn't ma'akev. V'leima zu divrei Rabbi Shimon stimai. Why don't you say this is Rabbi Shimon stimai? Why are you saying it's Rabbi Akiva? Akomash Malon, the Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon Sfirale. He holds that Rabbi Shimon holds like Rabbi Akiva. My Rabbi Shimon, we're in Yud Zayin and Aleph. My Rabbi Shimon, which Rabbi Shimon is this? The Tanya, the Chumas Yotcha. Now he quotes this whole. There's a whole pasuk here. Rabbi Shimon is about to be Dorish. It says the pasuk, Leisacha lecho b'sharecha. So it says, you can't eat it in your shar. So what does he learn from this long pasuk? Amr Shimon. What's the drasha? He says, Trumas Yadcha ele b'kurim. Because the Rashi explains Trumas Yadcha, it says, V'nosan ha'kayin ha'tena b'yodecha, you have to give it with your hand to the kayin. Ele b'kurim. Amr Shimon, mabalam deinu, what's this come to teach me? If it's come and tell me you can't eat bikurim outside the chayim, where can you eat bikurim? You have to eat it in Yerushalayim. If it's telling me you can't eat it outside Yerushalayim, kavachayim from Maisa. I know this from kavachayim from Maisa. Maisa kshen you can eat outside Yerushalayim. No. So if Maisa kshen you can't eat outside Yerushalayim, kavachayim bikurim can't eat outside Yerushalayim. The question is, everyone asks, why are you learning it from Maisa? Let's learn from Truma. Bikurim is called a Truma. It's Truma's bikurim. I don't know. It says it's a Truma. So why would you learn that from Maisa? Just because Maisa you have to eat in Yerushalayim, Maisa Sheni you have to eat it in Yerushalayim unless you pay then you eat out of Yerushalayim. Why are you learning Bikurim from Maisa? Learn it from Truma. Truma you can't eat outside Yerushalayim. Truma you don't have to eat in Yerushalayim. That's the kasha. That's one of the kashas they ask over here. Why do you want to say it's like a Maisa? Elamah, because since you have to bring it to Yerushalayim, like Maisa, so why would you compare it to Truma? Truma you don't have to bring to Yerushalayim. Truma you bring it, you eat. Shumi, you don't take it to Yerushalayim at all, but Maisa, since you bring it to Yerushalayim like Maisa, so treat it like Maisa, and you have to eat it in Yerushalayim. Just like Maisa, if you eat it outside Yerushalayim, you get Makos. Become like Ashken, of course, Bikurim, you should get Makos. So what's this pasuk come to tell me? That if you ate the Bikurim before you said those psukim, Aram Midavi, you ate the Bikurim, you couldn't hold back, like you get Makos. The next line in this pasuk says, "V'nidvei secha." What's nidvei secha? Zutayda v'shlamim and a dova. Nidvei stayda. Guy says, "I want to bring a carpet tayda." Then what's coming to teach me? If it's telling me you can't eat outside the chayma, I'll also know this from Maisa. It's coming to tell me that if you eat the tayda v'shlamim before you do zrikas adam, like long pasuk of Bukhairis, it says the pasuk of Bukhairis. Zah Bukhar, telling me by if a guy brings a Bukhar, we should mazabal on deinu. Im lechus lechayim kavachayim Maisa. We can also learn Bukhar from Maisa. Im fezrik kavachayim b'tayda v'shlamim. Alei bakasav ela la'echa min ha-Bukhar afil achazrika. It's coming to tell me that if you eat the Bukhar, even achazrika, like shu like. So what does Bukhar chavetzaycha come to tell me? Zu chatas v'ashem, because the chatas and asham was a okay, you bought from Bakar and Sain. Well, no, also from Maisa, you have to eat in Yerushalayim the Chatas and Asham. Im lefezik kavachayim v'tayda v'shlamim. Im la'achazrik kavachayim v'bachar. Halei bakas v'ela la'eichel mechat ela la'eichel mechatas v'asham afil la'achazrik chutz l'kelayim. It's coming to tell me that if you eat the Chatas v'asham, even achazrika chutz l'kelayim outside the tchum, should like they get Makos. And last one, wasn't it the Recha? Zu Ayla. Because the Ayla was in there. The guy's like, I'm going to bring a carbon Ayla. He doesn't eat any of it. I'm Shimon Mabazil and what's coming to tell me? If it's telling me you can't eat out to the Chaim Kavachim Maisa. If there's Rika, Kavachim Mitayda, Vishlamim. And Im Lachas Rika, Kavachim B'char. So we know all this. Im Chutz L'Kelayim, Kavachim B'chatas V'asham. Hayleba Kasav Ella. So you can't ever eat the oila, even bifnim, even lachazrika. It's coming to tell me you can never eat the oila. Oila is Ilal Hashem, you get nothing from it. Thank you, have a wonderful day.